Hi, welcome to lecture 3A, and we're going to be focusing on key examination questions for independent behaviour. This question will be written out in lecture 4D, so discuss one or more explanations of why people resist the pressure to conform. So discuss, remember, we're talking about outlining and evaluation, only 8 marks. So we outline, for example, let's look at one explanation. So one explanation could be the role of social supports, and explain what social support is and how we can resist the pressure to conform there. And then we can talk about it in terms of Ash's study or Ash's variation study, where they had another support person there. And then you can either talking about Alan Levine, who looked at the three conditions as well in terms of supporting this particular explanation of social support, and that will be enough for an 8-mark question. Explain what is meant by locus of control. Again, you're going to talk about high externals versus high internals, and you're going to use examples. So high externals will believe that all their circumstances are to do with luck or outside forces. For example, somebody thinking that they passed an examination because it was luck. And high internals is where they have personal responsibility for their own actions. And you can use an example. For example, somebody passed an examination because they said that they've worked really hard and they revised every single day. That should be enough to get you your 4 marks. Using your knowledge of psychology, explain why some people might resist pressures to conform. Again, you're going to use just to conform, so you can use the role of social support, explain what that is, and explain it in context of Ash's study. So that should be Ash's variation study. So that should be enough to get you the 4 marks. Not everyone conforms or obeys authority. Some people resist these pressures and remain independent. Outline and evaluate research relating to independent behaviour. So this question, I deal with it in lecture 4D. I actually write it out for you to see. So I'm outlining particular research relating to independent behaviour. So I'm going to do Ash's variations in terms of social support, and I might do Milgram's variations in terms of status and environment, and then I'm just going to evaluate both the Ash and the Milgram study, and that should be enough to do here. Discuss one or more explanations of independent behavior, for example, how people resist pressures to conform or obey. So this is only 8 marks. You can talk about the role of social support, and you have Ash's study to back that up. So remember, outline and evaluate. Or you can talk about the status or an environment, and you can talk about Milgram's variation studies to support that as well. Again, I write this particular question in lecture 4D. Explain how locus of control influences independent behavior. So we could talk about how researchers found that people who are high internals are more likely to be able to resist pressures to conform or obey. And you could talk about twinge research, which found that high externals are more likely to be linked to depression, lack of control, etc. Yeah, so that should be enough for 4 marks there. Again, 3 students, George, Petra, and Dan, have just started in a 6th form. Dan is a confident person who thinks that his fate lies firmly in his hands. So I'll highlight there, his fate lies firmly in his hands. Okay, so he's responsible for his change. So Dan, to me, already would be have an internal locus of control. By the end of first week, Dan has put himself forward to be nominated as a class representative. Petra has also put her name forward to be nominated. She believes it is just luck. So I'll highlight here, she believes it is just luck. So to me, Petra seems like she has an external locus of control. Whether or not she'll be selected and feels that there is not much she can do about it. George did not put his name forward because his father told him not to. To me, that's a straightforward obedience. Okay, so what type of locus of control does Petra's behavior show? And I would say Petra shows external locus of control. What type of locus of control does Dan's behavior show? That will be internal locus of control. So that would be 1 mark each. Just do one word. So external, internal locus of control. George did not put his name forward as a class representative. Use your knowledge of social influence research to explain this. And then you can say George did not put his name forward because George perceives his father to have to be a legitimate authority figure and have status over him. So therefore, he would obey his father. Yeah, and that'll be enough for 2 marks there. Which of the three students is most likely to resist pressures to conform? Use your knowledge of psychology to explain your choice. So again, we'll say Dan is more likely to resist pressures to conform because Dan is more likely to take responsibility for his own actions. And you can talk about how Twain Jetel found that people who were high and external were more likely to be able to have less control, being more depressed, and being more likely to obey or conform authority figures. When we're in a large group of friends, it is very easy to agree with them and simply go along with their views. However, sometimes we're able to resist the pressure to conform. Using what you've learned from studying conformity, outline one reason why we might resist the pressure to conform. So one reason, again, what have we got? The role of social support, as it found in Ashley's study, that when we have supporters, we're less likely to conform. Simple, only 2 marks. And that is the end of lecture 3A. And join me again for when we look at lecture 4, which is all about social change.